Hello everyone, this is Praneeth again from the USMLE Sardi team, and thank you for the response for the previous videos. We are glad you liked them, and we are here again with another video as a part of the series of videos that we are doing for the USMLE exams. So we have discussed the overview and what not to do as a part of your step 1 preparation. But today, let's see what you can do to score high on your exams. These are the best practices that got me a 260 plus on both my step 1 as well as step 2 CK. 70 to 75% of today's content will be helpful for those preparing for step 1 or step 2 CK, but that 30% of the content is centered around step 1. Without any further delay, let's get into today's topic. So number one is the art of solving questions or test taking skills. The resources that are used for the STEP exams are pretty much the same by everyone. What matters the most or makes the difference is the art of solving questions. So we're going to do a separate video on this, but in today's video, I'm going to give you a highlight on how you start working on the test taking skills. So after completing a block or system on UWorld, I recommend that you take time, sit down and note what mistakes you have done and why you have done them. You can take a note of them on a paper or maintain an Excel sheet for that. And you don't have to do it for the whole of UWorld. Just do it for a few systems initially, or whenever during your preparation you feel you are stuck or your assessments are not up to the target and are kind of plateauing. So check why you did those mistakes. There are five things I could narrow it down to. Number one is knowledge deficiency. That is not understanding the concept or you didn't study the topic yet. Number two is because you didn't clearly read the question or the answer choices properly. Number three is maybe because you were overthinking on the question. And number four is maybe because you were confused between two options and then you couldn't figure out the right one. Or number five, it could be because of the speed. So make a note of all these and try to figure out what is hurting you the most and how you can overcome it. So once you figured out what the problem is and how you can fix it, next is implementing it. And the solution pretty much differs depending upon the problem itself. So if it is knowledge gaps that is hurting you the most, then a thorough revision of the core resources or adding another high yield resource might help you. Or if it is not reading the question clearly and that's what is hurting you, then make sure to develop a pattern of reading the question and make sure you follow it cautiously for about 10 to 15 blocks on UWorld. After a few blocks, you will automatically be tuned to that way of doing it and it will come out naturally on the exam. An extra tip that I want to give you here is also keep an eye on what works the most for you. Is it sticking to the option choice that you choose first, or is it changing the option when you review the question again at the end? So this is extremely helpful in the real exam when you may have to go with the gut feeling sometimes. That is, you've tried everything and you still are not able to figure out which among the two options is the right answer. So whatever worked the most for you in the practice questions is what will work for you on the real exam as well. So the second best thing is to do more practice questions. I have personally done UWorld and partly USMLE RX and AMBOSS and all the assessments that are available for the STEP exams at various stages of my preparation. Like I used UWorld as a core resource. I did the RX question bank while I was reading the Kaplan lecture notes, and I used AMBOSS when I felt I needed more new questions while I was solving the second round of UWorld or after finishing UWorld. And by doing thousands of these questions from all these question banks, number one, your test taking skills are automatically built up. Number two, you learn any new concept or topic that is not covered by your core resources. Number three, obviously, by doing more questions, your concepts that you already know will be solidified. But one important thing is to know or limit yourself on how much time you should be spending on these question banks and at what depth you need to review them, depending upon the time you have and the stage of preparation that you are at. So the third best practice is to do first aid in 3 to 4 different ways. I did first aid, number one, as a quick reading in 15 to 20 days to have an overview. Number two, while I was doing with the U World. And number three, I did it after I annotated everything into first aid from U World and Boats and Beyond. I was reading it with a study partner. So this time we were asking questions every few pages, after every few pages, and we were clarifying any doubts that we had, and we were also linking concepts from different systems. And finally, I again read First Aid with the help of USMLE flashcards, and I really liked that. So doing it in these many ways not only made it interesting to me, but it also gave me an opportunity to look at a concept in 3 to 4 different ways, and that helped me, remember or understand the concepts much better. And of course, memorization didn't become a problem because I read it 4 to 5 times overall. But I want you to remember that there will still be a point or a perspective about a concept that you will forget, even if you're reading first aid for the 10th time. That's pretty much normal, and that's not what is tested on the real exam. So don't worry about it. So fourth off here is reading standard textbooks and listening to lectures in medical school. So I was fortunate enough to have very good professors in medical school, and I always try to listen to them and participate actively. And I can't tell you enough or stress enough about how people regret of not focusing in medical school. I'm not trying to say this is the only way to score high. There are definitely people who did below average in medical school and scored 260 plus. But what I'm trying to say is it is much easier if you have very good foundation in these subjects in medical school. And it's maybe reading standard textbooks and listening to lectures, maybe a very good practice for someone who's still in medical school rather than focusing on exam preparatory material. And there is also always 10% of that exam content that is not covered in your regular resources or the resources that everyone is using. So that is where listening to lectures, attending ward rounds, and reading standard textbooks will come of very helpful, and it will give you the edge and difference to score high. So the fifth best practice is to reassess and refine your goals from time to time. So USMLE is a dynamic process, and the strategies and schedules need to be reassessed and refined every now and then. And what worked best for me is the short-term and long-term goal strategy. So writing down your goals on a piece of paper will increase your productivity a lot. I used to write down my everyday goals, my short-term goals, that is for the corresponding month, and my long-term goals, that is for the future months, on a piece of paper, and this helped me reflect on my everyday's progress more effectively. I used to open this book every day and make sure I completed my set goals. And it also gave me an opportunity to see where I was going with the preparation and reassess and refine my goals from time to time. So next is how to break the routine but still be productive. So at some point of time in the preparation, we all get bored of reading the same first aid and new world again. So this is where some of us push ourselves and tell that step one is a really important exam and you have to focus now. And some of us may give up to the pressure and take a break or procrastinate. But this is where I tried some different styles of studying. So number one is the Facebook crash or quizzes. So in the Facebook groups, people usually post a schedule or the date when the crash is going to happen and the topic for that. And on that particular day and time, they keep asking questions in the comment section from on that topic from high yield resources like UWorld, First Aid, and Boats and Beyond, and other high yield resources and questions. And they also put the answers for their questions. So this is very informative and fun at times, and you should try it. So next is sometimes reviewing UWorld would become monotonous and then also very slow. So this is where I tried the custom mode with a study partner. So custom mode is where one of you would create the question block and share the test ID with other. So this in this way you both of you can do the questions independently, but you would review them together. So this definitely helped me many times to review UWorld faster and in a more efficient way. And it's also important sometimes to take 10 to 15 minutes breaks during your preparation and do whatever that makes you feel happy. Be it a cup of tea, be it talking to your friends, be it playing your favorite game or watching your favorite show. This will help increase your productivity. So the seventh best thing that we have here is to have a solid plan few days before the exam. So a couple of things here are number one, mark or tag some high yield topics or topics that you're likely to forget right from the beginning of your preparation so that you can revise them days before the exam. This is super important because there are some topics are always like, no matter how many times you read them before, a final reading before the exam is required to get them to the usable memory. And this will also decrease your panic before the exam by keeping you busy. And then I would also suggest that you watch microbiology, pharmacology, biochemistry, and first six chapters of Pathoma videos, just like a movie before your exam, without any stress of remembering it. So this is important because they are super high yield topics and it's very easy to forget them. So final, watching them a few days before your exam will help a lot. So next, let's discuss some annotation tips. So annotating only the high yield and missing stuff into first aid is very important. So first aid should be your final book that you can revise from before the exam. Although some people prefer to annotate your world into separate notes, I annotated everything into my first aid, and that helped me a lot. So first aid already has some concepts that are given in UWorld. So it is very important to know what is given, what is not given, and how much it is given, and where is it exactly given in first aid, so that it will make your annotation less burdensome and easier. So for that, I would suggest first to do a quick read of FA before you get into UWorld so that you know what is given, where is it given, and how much is given. So number two is it will also be very helpful if you have a PDF version of first aid open on the phone or laptop so that you can quickly use the search function to spot the topic that you want to annotate from UWorld or Boats and Beyond. Next, third important tip here would be to write down the question ID from UWorld of the questions that you do mistake or the questions that you think have a good or new concept that you're likely to forget. So that way, when you're revising that particular topic from first aid, so you can quickly type the question ID on UWorld and open the question, and you can see how a question on that topic would be presenting in the exam. So this will help you remember and understand concepts much easier and longer. And also, sometimes it happens that when you're solving UWorld or when you're annotating UWorld, you feel like you need to annotate the whole explanation into first aid. So this, although this is not right most of the times, but sometimes you may have to do it. So that is also where this technique, that is writing the question ID just beside the topic, will help you. So that way you can avoid making your first aid look so filled up or messy. So number nine is never take long breaks during your preparation. I planned my schedule in such a way that I took regular breaks, one every 7 to 10 days, and never took longer than 3 to 4 days break. So for every long break that you take from your preparation, you may have to go back by 1 or 2 weeks in your preparation, and that's not a good thing. So consistency is the key, guys. Never take long breaks in your preparation. So the last thing is about staying calm and composed on the exam day. So I'm a strong believer of the saying, do not focus on the result, focus on the process. Results will follow. So it's really useless and waste of time to focus on the result on the exam day. And most importantly, the process is not yet over. It is very important to keep the spirits up and show the same determination even on the exam day. I can't tell you enough about brilliant people who scored low because of the exam day stress. And there are also many people who maintain the rhythm and focus on nothing but doing or giving their best on that one particular question at a time, and actually scored higher than their assessments. Finally, remember that people hardly score lower than their NBMEs, and staying calm on the exam day will actually increase your score.